first thing we're going to talk about tonight is dark matter. And so Israel is preparing to build the first dark matter detector. All right? So this is going to be taking place at Ben Gurion University of the Negev, and they're going to attempt to shed light on the hypothetical type of cosmic matter. And that's not the stars, that's not the galaxies. I don't know about you, but if you have ever seen a star being born, it's one of the most breathtaking, I mean heart-stopping things you will ever see. It's absolutely amazing. Literally, stars are born like babies are born. And the Hubble, and I've never been able to find, but there was one of those IMAX movies that came out on the Hubble, and the Hubble took you into the nuclei where these stars are born. It's unbelievable. But this is not about that. This is an attempt to find out what all that black matter is that's in the universe. And so they have an advanced detector of dark matter, thought to be one of the basic components of the universe and 5-fold more abundant than ordinary matter. This will be built and operated by Ben Gurion University, as I just mentioned. All right. Now, although dark matter has yet to be detected, folks, they have never been able to detect the dark matter. I think most of you can see where we are going. And several astronomical measurements have corroborated its existence. It's living, folks, leading to an international effort to observe it directly. The initiative is partly funded by a joint grant from the American National Science Foundation and the U.S.-Israel Binational Science Foundation. So the detector will be based on the theory that some types of dark matter produce a signal imitating a magnetic field and may therefore be detectable by extremely sensitive magnetic sensors. Experts in fields of atomic spectroscopy, magnetic sensors, lasers, optics, atomic clocks, and advanced electronics will cooperate on the effort, which will be led by Ben Gurion University professor Ron Fullman with Professor Derek Jackson Kimball of California State University, East Bay. Astronomical observations have brought the scientific community to the conclusion that a very large portion of the mass of the universe does not emit light and is therefore invisible to our telescopes. This has led to the dark matter paradigm. The essence of this project is to find new methods to detect this material. Right. Let's go back to this article for a minute. And let's pull out two things. Well, let's pull out three. First of all, dark matter. The second one is going to be the magnetic field. And the third one is going to be the atomic clock. Now, I want to pull those out, and I want to take you to a couple of places tonight in the Torah. First place I want to take you is the very beginning of Genesis. And so we see in the very first, in the beginning of Genesis, all right? It says here, no wonder. Okay, so in the beginning, let me go back, all right. It says, V'ha'aretz hayita tohu, which is the word for chaos or void, no form, okay? Tohu. Ve bohu, all right? And bohu means it's void. There was nothing there. And then it says vechoshech. Al pnei tahum ve ruach. Now, first of all, what is it saying? Ve'ha'aretz is the earth. Hayita, that was, all right, tohu was without form, it was in a state of chaos, all right, it was void, and that was ve'bohu, and it was dark. In other words, and darkness was on the face of the earth. So darkness was covering the earth. And then it says, and then, so cool, is upon the face of the earth and the deep, which is even relative to the waters and to the deep. And then it says, the ruach, and the spirit, all right, of Elohim, the spirit of God, ve'ruach Elohim, and then we have the word merachefet. That is rachaf. It means to move upon the face, al panaim maim, on the face of the water. So this word here, darkness, is koshek. Koshek is darkness. It means darkness, obscurity, and it means secret. So there is this whole matter that appears in the very beginning of Bereshit, in the very first two verses. And then darkness is what's separated. And so God pulls this darkness, all right, separates, and there's light and there's darkness, there's day and there's night. But the darkness in and of itself, the whole concept, does not go away. We read in 1 Kings 8 and 12, Solomon said, the Lord, all right, he actually dwells in thick darkness. And then Job says, in 12:22, he discovers the deep things out of darkness. And then in Psalm 18:11, he made darkness his secret place. And so what we have here is we have scientists that are now going to try to penetrate the secrets of where God exists. This is going to be fascinating. You know, you may remember when the ultrasound that was able to see the baby was discovered. And the womb itself is a secret place. It's a secret place. It is the place where God creates. It's the place where the baby grows. I mean, it's just an amazing miracle to watch. And yet they discovered technology that allows you to see the baby. It allows you to know if it's going to be a girl or if it's going to be a boy. And the reason I was thinking about that is because when they came out with that technology, all of us were like, oh, I don't know. That's like such a secret place. Like you're spying on something. And I remember so many women, because I worked in the medical field at the time, I remember so many women back then saying that when they actually saw the baby inside, right, they said, I felt like I was violating something, like I was seeing something I shouldn't be seeing. And now, of course, it's commonplace when the baby gets to be 12 weeks, you're off to the doctor to find out whether it's a girl or whether it's a boy. But nevertheless, here we are now stepping into a whole new dimension. This is true Star Trek, going where no man has ever gone before, right? So this is going to be interesting. So darkness, of course, is replete in Scripture as the place where God Himself dwells. Now, the next thing that is so interesting is the magnetic field statement. Now, they said here that they think that this dark matter itself produces a signal imitating a magnetic field, and that it may be therefore detectable by extremely magnetic sensors. Now, why is that interesting? It's interesting for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's interesting because we're once again dealing with the waves and the energy fields that we discussed when we were talking about quantum physics a few weeks ago. Now, the other reason that's very interesting is because the Bible itself is written in a different logic than almost all knowledge that is on the face of the earth. And this is what's unique, is that it's written in something called block logic. And it's written in a way, it's not just written, it is inspired. When God moved on men to write, this is the logic that He deposits and deposited in the authors of the Torah, the authors of Scripture. And so the logic that God deposited has to do with taking two contrasting thoughts, perspectives, ideas, and trying to put them together. And when you try to put these two contrasting ideas and perspectives together, what do you get? It's like you get a magnetic field. It's a place where there is so much energy, revelation, understanding that is emulating from these two diverse perspectives. That is fascinating, that this is the kind of matter that they're picking up or believing they are going to be able to tap into in the darkness. Fascinating. I'll come back to that issue in a little bit. The third thing is the atomic clock. Now, the atomic clock is important because of the theory of relativity. And so it says that a body in motion actually slows down when it comes to time. So that's the theory of relativity. So if you take an atomic clock, you put it at the airport, and you put one on a supersonic jet, right? And you fly the jet around the world, the atomic clock that is on the jet, time will actually slow down versus the time of the clock that is in the airport. So when that jet lands, the time that will be on the atomic clock will be slower than the time of the clock that was left in the airport. That's the theory of relativity. So that is interesting, especially when you hear, and it's one of the courses, or not really a course, it's one of the lessons in one of the modules in the 4 Essentials of Biblical Interpretation. And we are going to show you how the theory of relativity is used to help us understand how God created the earth in 6 days. Absolutely mind-blowing stuff. So I thought, how interesting. Looking at dark matter, number one, the whole concept of darkness being where God dwells. Number two, the magnetic field being relative to the logic in which the Bible is written. And number three, the fact that we're talking about the theory of relativity, all right? And that being relative to how God created the heavens and the earth, or especially the 6 days. So all 3 of these aspects of what the scientists are utilizing and looking at take us back to the first chapter of Genesis, or Bereshit. Absolutely so interesting. I don't know if that's even interesting to you. Wouldn't you like to see these connections between what's existing in this dark matter and what is written in the Torah? Would that be interesting to you? If it's interesting to you, I want you to give me a shout out in the chat, all right? Well, I want to know if that's interesting to you. In fact, let's just go a little bit further. For those of you that are listening and you're not tapping into the chat yet, if you want to open up the chat, I want to know tonight 2 things. Would you like to know about black logic, how it works, how to recognize it in the scripture? And number 2, are you interested in knowing the connection between the theory of relativity and how God created the heavens? Well, not the heavens per se, but how God created the earth in 6 days. So I would like to know from you if that's interesting. Have you ever thought about these things? You know, have you considered, you know, when you look up into the heavens at night, especially if you're in an area where you're not in the city and you're in this pitch black place, and have you ever wondered, what's in the darkness? What's up there? I have. I mean, so fascinated. Obviously, these scientists have. All right, so before we go to the next totally mind-blowing thing,